Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. To everybody who's watching me live and to everybody who will see this video in the near future. Thank you so much for being here today. Before we get into the main part of this session, let me briefly introduce myself to you so you know where I'm coming from. My name is Avani Kottalgi, and I'm currently working as a business analyst at Cigna Healthcare, which is an health insurance company here in UAE. My role sits with the intersection of business, technology, and data driven decision making. So, along with my full time role at Cigna Healthcare, I am also a Women Tech Makers ambassador since the last 4 years, and where I've conducted quite a few events during my university related to machine learning and workshops related to APIs and attended a lot many talks. So I feel DevMina is also one of the community which I'm quite close to, being a Women Tech Makers ambassador. Um, Earlier, I've also had the opportunity to work on a research grant, which is related to robotics, and will soon be going into a publication for the same. And that experience is something that really exposed me to do innovation at an early stage in my research. So today I'm here to also talk about what my research project was and how it actually aligns with the topic that we will be talking today. I also mentor young developers and volunteer with initiatives like Technovation Girls, which Women Tech Makers is now a part of. I have also taught Python, the programming language, to high school students, basically, to for them to be prepared early on before they start their university, so they get the understanding of the logic and everything related to it. So one thing before we proceed is something that I really want to say in full honesty is that I'm still very early in my career journey and learning something new every single day is like a routine for me now. So what I'm going to share today is simply what has helped me so far from my university till my first job and some things which I wish I had understood a bit earlier starting out. So with that context, let me move on to why we are really here today. So, this session, especially for students and fresh graduates, or anybody who feels like they're just starting out and they're just trying to figure things out, just like how I was a few years ago or a few months ago. I recently graduated in computer science, and during my degree, most of my learning was very technically focused. So I have spent a lot of time learning most of the programming languages like Python, C, C++, and Java. And along with the concepts such as databases, data structures, data algorithms, and web development and basic software development practices. But beyond coding, I learned how to think logically, break down problems, debug issues, and build solutions step by step. So, a lot of my academic work was also about writing code, completing assignments, completing lab assignments, building small side projects, and making sure the logic worked correctly. So when I stepped into a role at my current job that wasn't a direct continuation of technical path, I would say, the transition initially felt a bit confusing. So suddenly the conversations were less about code and more about business goals, impacts, or the priorities, and about decision making. But that shift was challenging initially, I would really say. But it also became one of the most valuable learning experience for me so far, and it's something that I still hold on to today. So the new terms that were being used in meetings were all over. There were a lot of new expectations and the moments where I felt like everyone else was understanding what was going on except me. But there's one thing that I realized very early on, and I feel very fortunate for that, and that's something that I'm here to share about, is that technical skills alone are not enough for you. They are important, but they are not enough. So you can be very good at executing tasks, but if you don't understand the business side or the logic as to why you're doing this, the work sometimes can start to feel disjointed, and when you're doing side projects. So even small moments of curiosity early on can make a big difference over time. So now let me talk about the main problem that many of us, like the fresh graduates or the university students, face currently. So many of us, like many of us, I joined a job. I started my career that wasn't exactly what I studied. It was completely a different shift. So at first, it was quite overwhelming. There were new terminologies, a business focused environment, and a pressure to perform quickly. But early on, I got exposed to strategy and project management related tasks. Things like understanding priorities, tracking risks, and seeing how decisions are actually made. That was something that things shifted for me at that time. I realized that technology is not just something that we build, but it is also something that we use to improve processes, maybe support decisions, and also make real change. So once I stopped asking, like, what do I need to do? And I started asking, instead of what I need to do, I started asking, why does this even matter? Like, what impact does this make? So, what this made anyone or feel would make anyone feel more confident about themselves and actually understand the real reason behind why you're given to perform any tasks. So, why does this matter, especially early in your career? So we as fresh graduates, we often feel lost because suddenly they're like you're expected to understand both the business and the technology, and you're just there in your first job. But many of us complete tasks without even fully knowing that why we're doing them. So when you don't know the why, learning becomes very limited, and then understanding the business side helps you a lot. It helps you to do better work, to better ask better questions, to communicate more confidently, and also to grow fast in your career, at least in the initial stages. And what I personally realized is that this mindset doesn't really come from experience alone, but it also comes more from curiosity. So now I would really like to talk about where this confusion actually starts and something that I experienced during my university. So technology usually focuses on how things work, but business focuses on why those things matter. So this is one of the very important thing that was with me just when I was just starting out my job at Cigna. So early in our careers, we often stay in touch with comfort zones like coding, executing, and finishing the assigned tasks. But when you don't actually understand the business purpose, you miss the context, the priorities, the user value, and actually the real impact. So because I started in a role that was very different from my degree, as I said, which was computer science, I had to understand this gap from scratch. So I slowly realized that my technical background was not something that was separate from the business side, but it was something which I used as a very powerful tool and even continue to use it even right now. So earlier I saw as data as something that you just store or you just process, because that's what we've been talked about in universities or any other courses. But in a business context, what I learned is that clean and well structured data, the same data that we store, but in a better way, is actually something that helps leaders make better decisions and spot risks or prioritize their right problems. So even things like system performance started to mean more to me. So optimizing a query, I would say, or improving response time of any application or of any function, that isn't just like a technical win. It's something that improves the user experience and reduces frustration for sure, which matters a lot to the business. And I feel this is the gap that many of us early on don't realize when we are just in university. But in the long run, if we just have the right exposure and the right understanding of things, this is something that really makes sense a lot. The next thing which I would talk about, a few steps very quickly, which just sum up of the things that I have learned so far, and to all the fresh graduates and students listening to this now, is that the first one is to understand the business context. So when I first started working, I would immediately jump to tasks. I would say, before starting anything, I was like, okay, this needs to be done. Okay, let me finish this. Then the next needs to be done. Finish that. But I feel now before starting anything, you take a pause and then you ask a few simple questions. You ask, who is this for? Or what problem does it solve? Why is it important? And which business metric will it improve? So you don't actually need to know everything as a fresh graduate, but just asking these questions already puts you in a better place of getting to know the problem or understanding the task that is given to you. So once you understand the context, the next step is to communicate. or speaking both languages. So business and tech often speak very different languages, and that's something I'm still not an expert. I'm still trying to learn as and when I'm going and talking to people, or in different projects or in different tasks that are assigned to me. They speak very often different languages. And so, to give an example, as mentioned here, I would say that what the business will usually ask is that how does this help the user, or how does the risk reduce when we implement a so and so solution. But tech translates that into here's a simple solution, and this features reduces error by a certain percentage. So, as a fresh graduate, learning these basics also helped me a lot to contribute more to in meetings or in any discussions that I've had in office so far. So I feel you don't need to sound perfect, but you just need to understand the intent behind the words. And that is something that really helps, especially early on in your job or any internship, or any place that you are speaking about this. So the next step, which I would say, is building projects that show real impact. And that's something that I would really like to share. It would be like a phase where things really change the way I think. So many of us, fresh graduates or students, we showcase very technical projects to anything that is assigned to us. They're very technical. Everything is in detail. This language, that language, but which is really great. I mean, that's something that I feel is like our strong point, but they often miss the business reasoning. So, for my project, which I had delivered for COP28 UAE that happened a few years ago in Dubai, we had built an IoT, which is an Internet of Things system, which was capturing the carbon levels in real time using Arduino sensors with a user friendly dashboard, which we had made for the users to understand it simply as to how the levels of carbon are changing and impacting, so they can actually visualize the data. So this made that monitoring carbon emissions very simple and actionable. So even with the use of technology, we try to sort of make it a bit better with respect to the user functionality or the UI. So the few questions that we asked is that who benefits from this? That was our first question that we asked. What problem does it solve, or what decisions does it improve, or why does it matter? So again, coming to the same point, when any of us are building projects, the most important thing for us is to ask how is it going to be helpful, rather than how good my code is working. So that shifts your whole perspective towards building projects. So suddenly the project that I built started feeling meaningful. It was not fully technical, but it was also business focused. So another underrated, I would say, way to which helped is to work cross functionally early. Now, this will depend on the type of field that you're trying to go to. Like, for example, when you attend meetings outside your immediate team, maybe during your internship or in your early job, you start actually understanding how the whole organization actually works. So you learn so much by just listening to conversations, which I personally learned a lot listening to conversations between the IT teams, between the business teams, between the product teams. So you don't have to actually speak, but just observe and see what all points are being raised in such meetings. So when we as fresh graduates actually we jump into small tasks across different teams, we usually learn faster. That's something that I've noticed, because we get to see how things actually work rather than just getting to understand what the task assigned to you, how that helps. So I feel working cross functionally early really helps you to sort of get the whole picture of what you're actually working on. And that is really helpful, especially early on, when there's so much information out there and you really want to get better at it. um, the next step that I would say is that communication is the biggest advantage, which is still for me something that I'm learning every day, one by one. Of course, not an expert in this, but there's like a common belief I feel that the smartest person in the room is the one with the most technical. But I feel the smartest person in the room is the one who has the technical knowledge but sort of knows how to apply it. No, I'm talking about the people that I've seen, who work in such fields, who know what they are actually talking about because they have the technical knowledge. But honestly, I feel like learning to write structured emails or clear summaries or simple explanations really changed how people saw me. Or that's something that I feel that this is the most important thing, especially in your early career. even while I was still figuring out things for myself. Just a small email with clearly explaining this is what you've done, this is what you've achieved is really, really helpful. So, the next thing I would summarize whatever the steps that we have spoken so far, and the one thing that I feel that really helps me and it's still helping me a lot is the the framework that I've mentioned of 4 C's. So, 4 C's actually stand for curiosity, context, communication, and creativity. So curiosity is to ask questions, ask as much questions as you can. Context is actually understand the purpose of why you're doing a specific task, or what is the one thing that actually uh, motivates you to do that, or what's the actual reason why you're doing it. Communication, as I mentioned, the most important thing. You can do any task in the world, but if you don't communicate what you have done or the issue or the query that you have, it will not make sense, right? And that's something, I think that's the most important thing, which from university, if we apply and consciously try to do it better, that's something that will really help us. Creativity, and the last one, which is creativity, which is suggest small improvements. Anything that you see in your whichever way that you're working and you feel that there's something that needs to be improved, I feel that is something that even if we mention, that will really help a lot. So this framework, I feel, has really, really helped me, even as someone like myself, which who was very early in my career, would help me navigate a role which was completely different from my degree, as mentioned. And honestly, it can help you too, and I'm very sure it will. I feel I'm still learning and applying all of these every day, but it's given me a way to approach problems, make an impact, and communicate quite early. So it's not just about being technical, again, it's about understanding, connecting the dots, and sharing your ideas, and that makes all the difference. So now, before we wrap up, I have one slide for the people who actually, or the students who are actually will be seeing this video now or even later on. So I would suggest one thing: any resources that you need, just try to not overwhelm yourself with too many resources and too many courses. You can start small, similar way that I did throughout my university. You can take courses on Coursera, which we will share in the chat quite soon. So you can take any courses related to any of your discipline, I would say, or you can take even interdiscipline ones. Like if you're studying one degree but you want to know something about any other degree, this is the right page to start, like the right website to start. You can pick up really basic stuff about strategy or project management, that how I did, from YouTube as well. There are quite free videos which you can refer to. One thing I feel, that to improve your communication skills, you can reach out to LinkedIn Learning, or even you can just look at how people post these big posts on LinkedIn, or the way that they communicate. I feel because being in everybody's shoes, it's really difficult for us to actually sit through a 3 hour or like a even a half an hour video of listening to how communication matters a lot. So I feel it's quite much of a work. So it's better you can just go on LinkedIn and see how people are actually working and how they are, communicating or sharing their story, or anything of that sort. And one very important thing which I would mention is, do not miss the Dev Meena sessions. There are sessions I'm sort of going to promote, but I really, really find those helpful. You can actually see the sessions contain a variety of topics. They are not just related to any of your soft skills, but they also explain very much technical things from people who have actually experienced it. So I would really suggest you go through the videos on Dev Meena as well on the YouTube channel. And one important thing is, focus on applying what you learn. Don't just learn. Also try to focus it in any of the project that you're going to do, or any of your work, maybe in your career, something that will be useful for you. It's quite important, and it will be quite helpful for you as well. Um, okay, so I will end with one final thought. Is that honestly, I'm in the same boat as most of you who are here from university or just have started their job. I'm in the same boat as you, and I don't have everything figured out either. But in our early careers, we're still learning, we're still experimenting and asking questions. And I just want to say this to anyone who just feels unsure right now, is that it's completely normal to be figuring things out. Even many of us were in the same shoes in university, where you don't know what you exactly want to do. So thank you so much, everybody. I would feel for listening, and I hope this session helps you feel a little more confident about your journey ahead. Thank you.